Yo, so I am on my way to go throw. It is hot as all get out today, but I got a minute, and so you go to get it done while you can. So I'm going to answer the Q&A I got on my personal Facebook. Thank you guys for the questions, and go with that real quick while I'm on the way to training. Don't do this at home. I am a professional. Joseph, you said you noticed I really didn't post any caber toss training videos. Unsure if I don't have a caber to train, you know, or use a different method. What are the best ways to train caber without actually having a caber? So there isn't a good way to train caber without a caber. A while back, I did spend some time and actually built one to train with. I think Mike Bukowski's got a decent tutorial. I've got an old article on building a DIY caber. It's basically, you know, some 2x6s glued together, and then you kind of saw it and make a tip on one end. It's tough, and I found it a super pain in the ass to try to train by myself. Standing it up and then trying to catch my breath and then throw it all was not a terrible amount of fun. So I stopped doing it, and I focused on it in competition and doing it 20 times or more a year when I compete. I got better at it. Still not a great caber thrower, but I am indeed better at it. So that would be my recommendation, is if you really need one to train with, build one, or try to get a barn pole. You can do that and shape it down. There's a couple other options. The untreated 2x4s work. They are very heavy, and it's kind of tricky, but you can get a better idea that way. That's really my best way. I think you could probably address training it. Question number 2, only got a couple questions, so I'll try to do a little bit more in-depth answers. So Joseph, as far as your lifts go on caber, it's really a snatch pull. You're basically just going to pull that weight back up and over your head. So doing some Olympic lifts and some speed work where you're actually going to high pull the bar, I think is going to be your best bet. You can see Dan McKim does a ton of that. My brother is a really good caber thrower, and he is very strong in the snatch. That would be what I think of training it. It's just that big vertical pull and keeping it in. It's a clean or a snatch. It's going to be the hip, and everything's got to drive and land together. You know, picking and balancing and figuring run and time's just going to come with the experience of doing it. So you're just going to have to do it. That's really, hope that helps. You know, there's not a way that you're going to get a lot better at shooting free throws unless you go shoot free throws. So hope that helps, man. Brent Blair, Matt, what do you do post-event to recover? He's a scrub and found himself very sore after his first game. Really depends on how beat up I am. I'm in a pretty decent throwing shape at this point, and what I mean by that is I'm 7 games into my season and really not too beat up after a competition. So I train a little harder than my competitions are to make the competitions easy. It's just going to kind of come with a lot of throwing, man. It's going to put you in weird spots and beat you up in weird places that only throwing does. So throw a lot, and if you're really beat up, I mean, the following morning, you know, I've always, you know, tried to recover and do stuff like that. I really lightweight, some high volume work to just kind of flood the legs or flood anything else with a bunch of blood to get over the soreness. And I mean, outside of that, you know, massage work works good. Do a bunch of rolling, do your mobility work. You know, all those things are going to help recover. If you can do some contrast showers, you know, after you compete, that's a huge help. If you have access to a hot tub and a pool, you can kind of go back and forth. Ice baths work pretty good. I prefer to do just the contrast. You know, all those things are pretty important to recovering. I like a big meal after I compete, mostly because I feel like I earned it. I don't think it particularly has anything. I don't think Highland Games does a whole lot of, you know, calorie burn per se while you're competing, but it is a long day. You're out in the sun typically, and usually not enough food and stuff like that. So I mean, a big help to recovery, you know, that I could recommend is eating and drinking plenty of water while you're actually out on the field. I also help my recovery by having a couple beers as soon as I'm done with the competition, or starting just about for the height events, and or caber and height events. Basically, the second half of the day, I like to have a beer or two. That way, you can take advantage of the little bit of dehydration and lack of calories, and catch a quick flash drunk, and then punch back into the game a little bit more relaxed. But that's a pro level move. I don't recommend that if you're not used to it. So. But in all seriousness, I mean, make sure you're eating some decent food, getting some calories in while you're competing. You know, spend some time afterwards really working on, you know, some mobility, spend some time soaking. I like a, you know, hot bath or jacuzzi, and, you know, work your mobility the following morning, do some time stretching, maybe some quick yoga. And, you know, hot shower usually loosens some stuff up. Stretch in the shower the following morning, and, you know, get back to it, get back to training, and just kind of push through it, and eventually you'll get in shape to where, you know, a single day game or a 2-day game really doesn't beat on you too bad. So hope that helps, Brent. JVG, I know that guy. Hey, Jason. Why not toes out and wait for height, just like any weightlifting, pulling pulling a clean or a snatch? It's a desired position to create maximum power for these movements. Why not wait for height also? I actually think about my foot placement trying to be very similar to those events, because I'm trying to create the same movement. I think, and I agree with you totally. I don't put the toes out as much or any more than necessary. I mean, I'm definitely not throwing toes in. You know, I'm basically thinking about trying to, you know, create a little bit of torque by, you know, twisting the feet and trying to stay loose, and engaging the hips and driving back, and, you know, trying to twist the feet into the ground a little bit tends to engage the glutes a little bit more. So, you know, wherever your mix of flexibility / speed / power is going to be best. You know, it's not quite an Olympic weightlifting movement because you have to reach back between your legs and pull through, since it's not exactly just pulling it up straight from the floor to the hips and over. So there is a little bit more to it than that. You know, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think those two positions ought to be relatively similar. I mean, I think you ought to start your weightlifting positions, you know, your deadlift and your weight for height and your sheath, you know, relatively an athletic position, you know, just about shoulder width or just past shoulder width, and, you know, kind of in an athletic stance, ready to go. It's not really a stance I think a whole hell of a lot about. It's really where I just feel the most powerful and most comfortable. You know, if you're not sure what your stance should be, just jump into the air as high as you can and land in a position ready to jump again, and that's probably where you should be. That is your body's natural spot for, you know, being kind of in an athletic stance, ready to go. Think about, you know, that's where you would land and be ready to fire off again. That's where you should be for your lifts. It's going to be a little bit different in everyone's anatomy with hip structure and, you know, mobility, flexibility, but those are all things we're going to try to work on, right? So hope that answers the question, Jason, and I hope all is well with you and your fantastic family. David Gutierrez, is weight loss purely for aesthetics, something overrated and unnecessary for a developing male teen, 18-year-old? Man, that all depends. I don't know your personal stance, but I mean, I don't give a shit whether you're 15 or you're 30. If you're unnecessarily fat, I think weight loss is helpful. And it's not just for aesthetics. It could just be for, say, living a longer life, being healthier, being able to do more. It's not purely aesthetics, but nobody needs to be fat. I mean, that's really the only word I can think of. No one needs to be fat. And I make jokes and say I'm fat. I lost weight for both aesthetics and just wanting to live longer and not be in as much pain, you know, recover a little bit better. And yeah, definitely aesthetics. I mean, there's definitely vanity involved. And, you know, I want to be an athlete and feel like an athlete, not be kind of gross. So, I mean, make sure, you know, you're doing it for the right reason. I also don't need to be so lean that I could, you know, get on stage. That doesn't seem to be the way either. You know, I don't need to be 1 or 2% body fat. So, I mean, do whatever's going to give you the best outcome. You know, being really big and using that crutch of being fat is also strong isn't true. There's plenty of guys who are plenty strong and not fat. I mean, look at the professional group of throwers. The top guys in the world aren't big fat guys. Myself, Dan McKim, Scott Ryder, Lucas Winta, Andy Vincent. Spencer's lost weight, and continued to perform better. Nathan Burchett isn't a big fat guy. John Pilling throws well. He's not a big fat guy. And you know, Matt Doherty, probably one of the best throwers in the world, and he's under 250 pounds. It's just not necessary for you to have. You know, dropping that weight will allow you to recover better. You know, while you're out in the field the entire day, you can recover better to train more, train harder. You can train harder just simply because you're in better shape. You know, there's a lot of benefits. Plus, you live longer because your heart's not under so much stress. You know, at the end of the day, man, none of throwing rocks isn't going to be something worth risking my life over, my livelihood. That's not really what the cards are. So, I hope that answers the question, man. And you guys look out for the next Q&A. And I'm going to go throw now.